right, this is the interview we've all been waiting for, because how often have you guys seen the TGC and the cricket.com Insta posts, the reels and all of that? Everyone's asking, what is the association all about? We'll tell you right here, right now. My name's Avni Chegde, and as you can see, the gems from Australia, the guys that, of course, get pelted in the comments every time Australia lose. But look, they're the best part of it. And we have Pezza and Higgos, of course, better known as Sam Perry, the bald and beautiful man on the left. And, of course, the guy who has better hair than me, Ian Higgins. Gentlemen, nice to see you all in flesh, essentially. Sam, I'll start with you. How's it going, mate? Because I know Australia down in the dumps. Can we already rub it in the first minute of the show?
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, you're into my baldness straight away, Avnish. I'm not bald. I actually just have an assassin's light on my head. No, we're good, brother. Firstly, can I just commend the introduction to this show? I feel like it's real TV, which I'm not used to at all. We're fine. We were just talking off air about how Australian losses, on one hand, are really frustrating and irritating. And Hugo's and I did walk into the studio this morning genuinely annoyed and upset that we had become invested in Australia's performance. But on the other hand, real good for views. It's just good for business. I'm sorry, but at least, I was saying when sandpaper happened, business skyrocketed, that's how this startup really kicked off. So if there's chaos ahead for the Australian cricket team, it's not all bad.
It isn't. And Ian, I think, summed it up perfectly in that little South Africa-Australia review you guys did in the morning. No one would have known of AFTV and Arsenal Fan TV if they didn't lose. But now the Arteta era, people have forgotten going to their YouTube page. It reminds me to ask you, honestly, how's everything going down under? Because that's down under. The best of the bad bunch so far in the World Cup.
So when we organised to do this live stream, it was like a preview to the biggest event in sporting history since the last one. And instead, it's actually a post-mortem of the end and the death of Australian cricket. So you've actually timed that perfectly. How's it going down under? That's a very loaded question, Avnish. It was a great footy season. The boys played well. The Pies got up. Collingwood packed house at the MCG. Sensational. So everyone is up and about, to use an AFL term. Is there a World Cup on? Not for me. But South Africa have gone way too hard too early. They've won way too many games. We all know how this turns out. South Africa's going to finish 8th. Let's just cut to the good bit.
I mean, you kind of remind me right now of the Australian team. I should say the Wi-Fi, because it's been pretty choppy from your end, but we'll kind of move on swimmingly, because I hope Australia as well kind of get themselves out of choppy waters. But straight up, guys, off the book.
Bravo.
How the hell did you guys meet? Because essentially, we've seen so much of y'all. The word, or the phrase, I should say, Asian century comes to mind. Is it just two blokes playing cricket who just decided to create a Twitter account and then the rest is history? Sam?
We actually met through musical theatre. Ian is a mezzo soprano singer. No, we actually. People who've followed TGC for a long time would know that we actually used to be a team of 3. Dave, who was in the group, was our mutual friend, so he introduced both of us, and we'd known each other from around the traps. We probably have played against each other growing up in junior cricket, potentially in grade cricket as well. We both claim not to remember the other person, which is more of a fragile masculinity play. But through Dave, we became friends and worked on a lot of we've built TGC together, and pleased to say most of the time remain friends today.
Okay. I mean, lots of people back here in India think that you're a better looking version of Darren Lehman, and Higgos is a better looking version of Michael Kasparovich. But did you guys bat or bowl? What kind of guys were you? I knew this would create some chuckles, but it's good. It's good. Higgos? Well, I stopped you already, haven't I?
Kasparovich. Well, yeah. I apologise if my internet is choppy, by the way, but I'm living in 2003, which is when Australia won a World Cup. So I'm just living there, generally speaking. I attempted to be a wicketkeeper batsman, and I am just going to stop it at that. Pez was a very good junior leg spinner. I'll speak for him. And then turned himself into a very good opening batter in first grade. So across our disciplines, we have actually defeated the game, and between the two of us, we would make a very, very good fourth grader.
Jesus Christ. By the way, lots of comments coming through, and it's just a kind reminder to all the lovely people in the chat, keep your questions coming through, because, of course, at the end of the show, we will, of course, put them to Pez and he goes about absolutely everything that you want to ask them. Remember, the small matter of India, Pakistan tomorrow. I'm like literally in a 2-star hotel, guys, in Ahmedabad, and it's costing me a fortune right now. So thanks to the guys in cricket.com for putting us right now, and hopefully the Wi-Fi from my end is decent. All right. We talked for the love of the game, and what's the first thing you guys think of when I say, why do you guys love cricket? Is it purely because the Australian love? Is it because you guys just love any sort of format? Talk to me, Sam.
Well, firstly, Avanish, presume that we love cricket. This is just a job for me. I think I've already made clear that musical theatre is my number one passion. Cricket is. I do love cricket, and I got to remind me to tell you a story. We had Justin Langer on stage with us at our live show, and he asked me the same question, albeit a little bit more frighteningly. But I'll come back to that. I've loved cricket as long as I can remember. It's on both sides of my family. My dad played grade cricket. He's from a big Catholic family of 7. He's got 4 brothers. They all played grade cricket. And on my mum's side, my great-granduncle was Bert Folkard, who was picked to play for Australia in 1914, but the war broke out, so he never got to play. And my mum loves cricket as well. Both of them supported my cricket all through junior days. I was so lucky to be taken out to the games really regularly. I just grew up like a lot of Australians, playing in the backyard as often as I could. My first memories of the game, watching on VCR back in, the very, very early 90s. So I think my actual first memory is this isn't playing to the crowd, but it would be India coming out to Australia in 91, 92, which of course that introduced me to guys like Kapil Dev, Muhammad Azharuddin, Manoj Prabhakar, Ravi Shastri, of course, and Sachin, so that was Warnie's first test. He was my hero, still is, in so many ways. And yeah, so they were like my early introduction to the game. And then it's just become like an indelible part of my life. As I got older, I learned a lot more about the brutality and darkness of the game, which is far funnier and way easier to build a business around.
I think you've summed it up absolutely brilliantly. I mean, back home here in India, we normally kind of look at Australian cricket, especially in the 90s, someone like me growing up, watching that absolutely brilliant team. But then you think of all the other things that you associate Australian cricket for example, waking up in the morning, skipping math exams, chugging down the cereal, listening to Bill Laurie on Channel 9, even though we didn't get access here. I don't know what VPN was back in the day, but you catch my drift. Hey, guys, I just want to ask y'all, is it any particular player that really made y'all take up great cricket initially, or did you have a role model growing up?
I actually used to have a friend who had a relative was Bert Folkard, who was going to play for Australia, but the war broke out. So he was always my number one. My favourite player is and forever will be Ricky Ponting. I've said this before, but it's weird because I'm 37. If I start having a favourite ever player who's younger than me, then it just feels like I'm just hanging around local parks looking for young men, which is another hobby I have on the side, to be fair. But so Steve Waugh. That was my first. Steve Waugh was my first love. But Ricky Ponting is he's my hero. And now he's obviously a close personal friend. He doesn't know my name, but we've spoken 3 times. So, dreams do come true, kids.
I mean, it does. So, let me just rewind the clock before you guys got on screen with regards to TGC. You guys were writers, and it just kind of spiraled out from there. I mean, how did you guys decide to kind of get on YouTube and then get a huge list of A-list cricketers, if I could say? Sam?
Yeah, like all part of the development of the Grade Cricketer. Like the Grade Cricketer started as a anonymous Twitter account, that we would tweet from at our jobs, and then the next thing we wanted to do was to see if we could explore the character beyond the 140 characters that was offered on then Twitter in a book. And we pitched a book to like 30 different publishers around Australia, and no word of a lie, the very last publisher decided, I think out of pity, to take it on. That book was successful, and I kind of introduced us to or gave us some credibility in Australian media more broadly, because there's a difference between writing a little quip on Twitter and then writing a full novel. And that was the time when we decided to remove our anonymity from the account as well, and reveal that there was 3 of us doing it. And then it just developed quite organically from there. Like once the book came out, we decided, I wonder if this would work as a podcast. So we started a podcast. We did that. And once you start a podcast, you get quite sick of your own voices. Well, you think you would anyway. And so that's when we started to ask guests to come. One of our first ever guests, and probably the person from like the funnel from which all of our other relationships have developed, was Ed Cowan. He was a real early supporter of TGC. He was a recent Test player at the time. In fact, he was knocking on the door of the side, but they weren't letting him in. You mentioned Darren Lehman earlier. All bald guys look the same. He wasn't letting him back in the side. So, yeah, Ed was our first relationship, and then Ed would open the door to others. And yeah, like, how do we get other A-listers? It's really just like willingness to accept rejection from the 10 other people that you've asked, and just harassing people in DMs. And another bribes, it's like there's no glory to it, but yeah, it's been cool.
I mean, you speak of the A-listers, and you guys have done some fantastic work with so many great names. Faf du Plessis instantly comes to mind because I'm a huge RCB fan. There's, of course, Wasim Akram, and just a plethora. I'm not going to name it because, of course, all you guys know. But the one that really caught my eye was the Dan Christian one. I don't know where that video went. Where is it right now?
I don't know what you're talking about, to be honest. I have a sort of like an inception memory of it. Like, I don't know if it was a dream. But yeah, I have this really, other people tell me they've had it as well, but they have this dream where we were talking to Dan Christian and Kyle Jamieson, and telling wonderful stories. I think the skill of the interviewer brought it out, but telling wonderful stories about, exchanges between teammates. And then you wake up in the morning and to a text message saying, if you don't take it down, I'll lose my contract. No, they're not. That's not exactly what happened, but essentially it was, please take this video down. So yeah, I think long story short, don't talk about Virat.
I mean, it's essentially greater powers of play. Were you guys actually really contemplating it at that point in time? Like, why should we take it down? It's our channel. These guys have spoken their mind. But were you guys really shitting yourselves and be like, okay, fine, this is like murky waters. We don't want to dance in thin ice or whatever.
I'll pick it up because of he goes, his Wi-Fi isn't choppy. He just takes a long time to answer. But it's he's going to the doctor for that. But that's a separate issue, and that's a private issue. But no, we didn't consider it because our friend Dan asked us kindly to do it, and he wouldn't do that unless it was important. And we figured that there was a really comedic opportunity in releasing a statement that evening about why it had been taken down. And like, there's no more like appealing piece of content than one you're not allowed to look at. There's a whole industry built around that with the teenagers. But so we'd sort of tried to frame it as like banned content and make a bit of a joke out of it. So it was really no problem. And it's also sitting there on private in YouTube anyway. We might release it one day.
I mean, we're literally waiting for that to be released again. But just speaking of fun with the guys that you've interviewed, I mean, which is the one interview that you guys remember in terms of just great conversation, just generally nice guys? And did any interviews give you all crow's feet? He goes.
We've had so many. I apologize again for the state of my Wi-Fi, but we've had so many great chats over the. I mean, obviously, anytime we talk to Stoinis, is always a really good chat because he's so giving. Faf du Plessis, I don't think really knew who we were at all, but I think he had some conversations maybe with Stoinis and maybe some other RCB guys like Maxwell. He's good friends with Watto, who's a friend of ours as well. So I think he had some comfortability there. But the one that I think of is Wasim Akram, in the sense of how difficult it is to get Pakistan and India players, generally speaking. Like it's much harder for us than it is for Aussie players, where it's just for the most part like a DM. To speak to Wasim Akram, because I think Pez and I, being children of the 90s, you know, what he meant for world cricket, obviously part of the winning World Cup side in 92 when we were babies. So to get the chance to talk to him, and the vulnerability of that conversation was really, really cool. And that's definitely a great memory of mine. And also he was really funny. He was lovely. He was very giving, and he was alpha as anything. So he ticked every box for what I want in a man myself, not just in his, but was him for me was like a great TGC memory for me personally.
Was he wired as well, Beza?
That means a lot of different things. I don't know if there's a cultural crossover there. Well, I mean, he did speak about his habits to Higgos, but and I don't know if he was wearing a wire for other reasons. But it was really like on the interviews. Like we've had so many incredibly like humbling opportunities to speak to players, and I had Wasim in the like conversation of the best, because if nothing else, we had the opportunity to do it in person. You know, so many of these interviews, because of the nature of our work and where people are, also a couple of years of COVID as well, meant that a lot of stuff has happened remotely. So when you get to actually do it in person, you can there's so much more nuance that you pick up in body language, and so much more connection you can make with people. And yeah, Wasim was in person, absolutely enormous human, awesome to shake that hand. I lost my hand in his handshake, but we've had so many others. Like Higgos mentioned, yeah, a lot of the funny ones are with Aussie guys that we know, like Zampa, always an absolute riot. Stoinis, Steve O'Keefe's very funny. Brad Hodge is really funny, talking about wearing his IPL lid, playing like serious park cricket in, as in like the most casual cricket possible in Melbourne. But then, yeah, I've had some really, like some higher level ones that are real memories of ours. Like we've spoken to Ricky Ponting in person. Even Elise Perry is, one of the greatest to have played the game. She literally came over, like we used to do our work out of Higgos' apartment. So she literally came over to Higgos' apartment and he tidied up nicely, but still, that was kind of funny. It took us maybe 9 or 10 requests to get Shane Watson in person. He was extremely hesitant to ever speak to us. And very understandably sensitive about his perception in Australia. And we had to we had so many people at different angles asking him to come onto the show. We got to the point where one guy he was playing with in grade cricket was asking him mid-wicket in between the overs to come onto the show. That's how hard we work to get people on. And yeah, like we've had Curtly Ambrose, Brian Lara, and probably the most special one for me was Michael Holding, talking about his book, Why We Kneel, How We Rise, and just that was just really special to speak to him about that topic. And then, from an Indian perspective, firstly, to talk to Shubman was really cool. Unfortunately, the best part of that interview got cut straight away. It was Higgos asking about his private life and whether Sachin gives him throwdowns in the house. And then, but then finally, in person, 1 hour, Harsha Bogle, that was very cool. What a legend. Like he was so cool to us. So giving, very, very funny, dry man off air, so knowledgeable. Didn't need to do the interview, did it as a favor for somebody else. So, and he's been really kind to us since as well. So, just a small list of people that we're really grateful to have spoken to.
I mean, the only common thing that I can see about Shubman and Harsha right now, they're both down with dengue. So God bless them wherever they are. Because
God bless. Yeah.
One needs to get back in the com box. One needs to get back in the team. But look, just before we move on to some nice, fun topics, on the list of those players, right? You mentioned with the India-Pakistan lads, Are you guys always kind of scared with the BCCI shadow looming large behind your heads? Because there's so many things. You can't do this, you can't do that. And even if you look at certain cricketers, if they ever want to work in the ambit or under the ambit of the BCCI, they're never going to give you so much. So how do you guys kind of push and probe to make them spill the beans, Sam?
Oh, I mean, come on, man. No, I'll attempt to answer that. Firstly, when we interviewed our first ever Indian player, which was SHUBMAN Gill, our interview experience was unlike any other that we've done before in for players that had come from Australia, England, etc. Like whenever, as Higo's mentioned, whenever you interview a player anywhere else, usually you can exchange a direct message or it is lined up through a media liaison, within a team. At the very most, that media liaison might sit in private on Zoom or something, but that's at the most formal. You are speaking one-on-one with that player and you might have a very informal agreement before the interview saying like, hey, listen, if there's anything you don't like, just tell me and we'll cut it, or I'll say, is there anything you do want to talk about, anything you don't want to talk about? And we're usually pretty good with that. And it's really casual like that. When we interviewed SHUBMAN, we like logged on to Zoom and there was like 10 guys named Rahul just waiting for us on Zoom to our like perception. And then finally, like 15 minutes later, the talent came in. Now, SHUBMAN himself was a legend. You could tell, very cool guy, very funny, very relaxed. His English and understanding of the nuance was very good. And I could tell he was enjoying it. But as soon as that interview ended, like it was straight on the phone and it was like, this can't make it, this can't make it, this can't make it, this can't make it. And that was a really, like, we were really, we just enjoyed the curiosity, like, and the introduction to this new world for us. Because what we've learned is that, like, Indian players, they are like several times bigger celebrities at home and abroad than any other player. We hear in Australia from players who go to India, you don't understand it until you go, and you tend to roll your eyes at it. But then you go and you're like, oh, holy shit, it's right. Like there's a reason why players are guarded because it's like it's just a mammoth, several times bigger scenario. So like it's a really different experience. It's much harder to get little nuggets out of them because like, their words are worth so much more. There's so much more to lose, I understand it. You don't really want to get them in trouble, as funny as it would be. So that's the perspective. And yeah, are we scared about the BCCI? I mean, are they watching now? Like, it's been a really interesting journey for us covering cricket in India. We've wanted to approach it with really agnostically. You can go to India and see that the fandom and the passion for the game, the love for the game is much greater than a place like Australia, generally speaking. But we have also felt at times covering cricket in India that like commercial opportunity can be preconditioned on what we call suck off, on like the propaganda side of things. So I don't know how successful TGC can be commercially if a lot of it is predicated on only speaking in sanitized vanilla terms about what goes on. So we'll just keep testing things out, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't.
And that's the beauty of it all, honestly. You guys have really upped the game for everyone else with regards to interviewing cricketers and getting those nuggets up, but also kind of just making them human beings. And that's fantastic to see. Just on that note, all you lovely people watching this right now, subscribe to the cricket.com network, subscribe to TGC as well. They're, I think, reaching 250K. So hopefully they get their targets met and we get ours. Here goes, I'll start with the fun questions right now because we're in the World Cup season. Just want to ask you, what's your favorite ODI World Cup memory? It's as simple as that. Is it the 99? Is it the 2003? There's so many to choose from an Australian perspective. So which one is the one that you choose?
Virat Kohli is my favorite player. Sorry. I'm also aware. Sorry, I'm aware there's a delay for me. I apologise for that. My favourite memory. I was actually genuinely thinking about this the other day, and I say genuinely because I'm often not thinking about cricket, but genuinely, my memory is 1999. Shane Warne bowling South Africa in the semi-final. Australia scored. It was a low score, low 200, something like that. South Africa had a very good start. Then Warne comes on and he gets Herschel Gibbs, Gary Kirsten, and Hansi Cronje caught it first slip off his foot. But it was quite a skill from Hansi. But that memory of Shane Warne just coming into the game, like I've never seen a cricketer like, you know, inverted commas in football terms, grab a game by the scruff of its neck, whatever that even means. But that was it. And like I was 13 in the 1999 World Cup, so obviously your memories and your hero worship of athletes generally is at its highest, it's at its peak. And that for me is like Cricket World Cup. That was purity. I mean, in the T20 World Cup, I literally experienced the greatest thing I've ever seen in sport with Kohli hitting Harris Ralph down the ground of the MCG. Pez and I were lucky enough to be there. That's a T20 World Cup, not quite the same thing, but 50 over Cricket World Cup, Warne, 99. Oh, that's pure joy, you know?
Yeah, it's gold dust. Pezza, do you agree with him? Because you mentioned the 92 World Cup, which is, of course, held down under the first time. Or was it 1996? Because you look at that crazy semi-final between Australia and West Indies, and it was, again, Shane Keith Warne coming to the party.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like just to give something different, I was going to say Warne against the West Indies in 96. I think 96 for me was 92 was the first cricket game I ever went to. My parents took me out of school to see Australia versus England. I remember where we were sitting. England absolutely dusted us in that game. But I remember Ian, like the flowing blonde locks of Ian Botham batting like without a helmet or a hat with Graham Gooch. But 96 was probably the first one where, for me, I was aged 10 or 11. I can't remember which. And so that's one that sticks in the memory a lot more. That's the one I probably fell in love with. I think the timings as well in Australia are slightly better than the UK for watching the games as well. So, yeah, I can't split Warne decimating the 96 West Indies or Mark Waugh wearing a floppy hat hitting 100 against Kenya, Steve Tokolo and the boys, either of those ones.
Oh my God, good old Steve Tokolo in Kenya, isn't it? I mean, essentially, we think about them, we think about that 2003 World Cup as well. But just on the format, guys, because how do you kind of resuscitate this 50-over format? I'm looking around crowds in these large stadiums in India, and it's diabolical because I know it's hot as fuck, but at the same time, how do you kind of get people watching 50-over cricket again? Because you're thinking to yourself, okay, there's an influx of T20s. We as cricket romantics, we love certain passages of play in terms of the longest format. But 50-over cricket, he goes, how the hell do you resuscitate it? And your Wi-Fi.
Well, don't. Games of T20 at the same time. I think the only way moving forward is games of T20 cricket to say 50 over cricket. That's really the only way you can do it. 50 over cricket is dead. I know there's supposed to be a World Cup in 4 years' time in South Africa. Then 4 years after that, it's going to be in India and Bangladesh, I think it is. Absolutely no way that's happening. It's sad. But because there's a history and there's a lineage of 50 over cricket, but yeah, give the people what they want, and what they want is footy season.
Yeah, Avinash, like ODI cricket. Let's be real. Take it out back and shoot it. It's a dead horse. The horse has been flogged. It's lame. Take it out back. It's done.
Yeah, because you think about generally cricket right now in the modern day game being so pro batters. I mean, 350 playing 350. We mentioned a man right now, Wasim Akram, who was probably the best exponent of a reverse swing. And they've just kind of really made it tailor-made for batting. So down under in Australia, do people actually like 50-over cricket, even in the domestic side of things? Or people are just like, fuck that, I'm not going to go?
I'll step in again. I'm not sure where he goes out with the Wi-Fi situation, but I think it's a really complicated question. I'll try and keep it simple because I'm not only like trying to figure out how to answer that, like in terms of the reality in Australia, but then comparing that to fandom in India as well. Like we've been saying for a long time, and it's very it's quite a like cynical view, but in Australia, like cricket is a really big part of our kind of culture and our understanding of ourselves. It's kind of it's the way that it works in Australia is that it's run in line with our cultural holidays, like outside of footy season. It's really like something that you understand as being a part of summer. It's part of the noise and background sounds and sights and smells, you know, of summer. And so for a long time in Australia, when Kerry Packer was in charge of cricket, and the game revolved around the Australian summer, Packer would go and get all of the other teams like India, West Indies, England, and you guys would come to us. And so for a lot of Australians through that time, our understanding of cricket is that it's built around our cultural seasons. The direction of the game is completely anathema to that now. It's going the other way. Our summers are being shorn of any credibility because the test teams that we play against don't really play test cricket anymore, apart from India and England. So when you ask what's Australians' fandom like at the moment, I think there's a lot of people for whom cricket is a part of our way of life and our culture, but we don't actually really watch it or get invested in it, I think, in the way that people in India might get invested in cricket. And that's a generalization. A lot of us watch the game a lot, but you only have to look as far back as last year when we hosted the T20 World Cup, and the turnout was very poor. Like, it was in October and November, and it just really showed that in Australia, it's a very specific time frame that we kind of pay attention to cricket. So against that backdrop, with the changes that are going on, the rise of domestic T20 cricket, I really fail to see Australians getting behind the ODI format, not to mention the fact that the white ball team sits behind a paywall in Australia as well. So Australians who don't pay for cricket or pay for their sport haven't seen the white ball team really on TV for like 6 years. So the interest is low.
Yeah, I mean, it's safe to say that the interest is low. But look, I just generally want to think about it as an option to, of course, propel the game forward. And it makes you think about other things. But right now, I just want to keep it World Cup centric, guys, because we have, of course, just 20 minutes odd in this live, and we'll, of course, entertain questions as well. Meanwhile, like and subscribe. India-Pakistan, guys, tomorrow in Ahmedabad. It's going to be an absolute treat. Why the hell are you guys not here? I mean, were you guys contemplating come to India to watch the game, first and foremost? And secondly, India are going to thump them, right? Sam? There you go.
Why haven't you brought us over there, Avinash?
I mean, we paid you. You guys have to just look at it, honestly.
You're in a fucking 2-star hotel. That could be our hotel.
It's like a 1-star condo, mate, honestly.
Just put us in a hospital or something. We'll do it.
Even that's done. Done. Like, normal people dying out there can't even bloody get into the hospital because of India-Pakistan. And I feel really bad saying that.
Oh man, no, we're pumped for the game, man. You know, it's because of the nature of relations. Games between India and Pakistan, you take on extra significance, and I think Pakistan matches up well to India. India look very complete, but I think Pakistan know their way around a game against India. So I'm really looking forward to it from a cricketing perspective, and I'm looking forward to the show. You know, like I know that there's a lot of other layers to what's going on in Indian cricket and in the country at the moment, and cricket being a vehicle for that. You're at Ahmedabad, Modi Stadium, 130,000 people or 110,000 people, depending on the end of the ground you're at. There's meant to be like a opening ceremony. It looks like it's going to be shock and awe, you know. Like I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an absolute razzmatazz show. I mean, I feel terribly rude as an interviewer not to kind of keep going to Higgos, but I have to take this comment with regards to what Higgos' internet's all about, because he says Higgos needs to pause his Pornhub streams for a moment and sort his bloody Wi-Fi out. But Higgos, on that note, with regards to India-Pakistan, do you think it's the best sporting rivalry? Because you guys, of course, have the Ashes. We look at other sports, football, for example, United, Liverpool comes to mind. But India-Pakistan, it's just a different vibe, right, Ian? If you can hear me.
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Yeah, sorry, Avinash, and sorry everyone for the frustration of my Wi-Fi. I do apologise if you can hear me at all. But yeah, probably is the greatest sporting rivalry, except for me and my dad. Except for when they put the
Sam, I mean,
times.
come on, mate.
But
Honestly,
you know,
we can't hear him. I'm trying to decipher it, trying to put 1 + 1 is 2. It's definitely not 2 right now. Sorry, he goes
Well,
if he.
No, he's all good. I mean, what Higgos was going for there was a classic Higgos answer, which was to start with the kind of the joke and then fall into something more seriously. But you know, is India like where's India's Pakistan sit in sporting rivalries? I don't really know like how to answer that. Like, it's really up there, isn't it? Because like once you start to like encompass some serious history and like geopolitical relations to it. Like and it's so hot that they're literally like, you know, they're forbidden from playing against each other. It's like forbidden fruit, you know, you just must have it. And so yeah, like I'm very excited. Like, I mean, for us who love cricket, it's the one fixture that we don't get to see very often because it's like it's too hot. So yeah, I'm pumped. It should be amazing.
It should be. And of course, there's India, Pakistan, and New York next year for the T20 World Cup. That'll be fascinating as well. And Higgos will probably just sort out his Wi-Fi right now. But Sam, I'll keep the questions coming at you all because essentially, with India, Pakistan being the talk of the town right now, early predictions, please. And who do you think is going to really grab this show by? I was going to say the scruff of the neck, by the balls, I should say.
I think, like, you know, you'd have to be fairly, what's the word, like ambitious to look past the big guns from India, wouldn't you? Like, I don't look at both teams and go, oh, it's very obvious, you know, that this is Shardul Thakur's game. You know, like it's with respect to the Lord, you know, like if he gets a game, but like it's gonna be wicket dependent, but yeah, I mean, Rohit looks like he's tuned up nicely. I get the feeling like this is kind of his time, this World Cup, but yeah, like, I mean, how do you answer a question like that without mentioning, you know, Virat? I mean, he lives for this shit. You know, like he lives for the greatness. He lives for the big moment. Like, I don't think Virat like plays an India-Pakistan game at home, World Cup, 130K people watching, billions around the world, and lets that one pass him by. You know, like he'll make sure he's part of that. That's the sort of guy that he is. Like, and that's what makes him. That's part of what, like, why he's great. So yeah, like I'm sorry for the cliche answer, but like I think in these games of like utmost significance, the really big boys make themselves known. So I'm just going to have to say those guys.
I'll tell you what, I'll plug in the cricket.com fan cams right now because we, of course, spoke to a lot of Pakistan fans and they were shitting bricks because they were like, what is it with Virat? Because he's honestly taking our country, and taking the piss out of the country every time they kind of battle each other in these competitions. But I just want to ask you guys a little bit about Australia because the whole chat is going absolutely apeshit. They must have seen your preview in the morning. But Australia, guys, I mean, they had India against the wall and then they, of course, bottled it. South Africa gave them an absolute hiding, Pezza. But you guys still confident about Australia's campaign going ahead? He goes, I think you're better off right now to answer this question. I hope, for the love of God.
I'm a Sri Lanka fan now, which is funny because our next game's against Australia. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to finally getting a W in this tournament so far. Avinash, I have no faith. I mean, like there's basically, we've been saying on the show, there's 6 teams going into 4, right? You know, six teams can make the semi-finals in most World Cups of a 10-team tournament. Look, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Netherlands, and Sri Lanka are probably just Sri Lanka's the height, like the tallest dwarf, so to speak. But like, you know, it's 6 going into 4. Australia clearly is the 6th best team in the World Cup. Like, if they finish higher than that, someone's going to have a shocking tournament. I mean, but like we were talking before, to make the semifinals, you need to win 6 games. People will figure out 6 games will get you there. Everyone's going to beat Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Netherlands, Sri Lanka, maybe. And if you lose all 4 games against Pakistan, India, New Zealand, England, then like you just don't deserve to make it. And that Australia's already lost 2 games. Sorry, I didn't include South Africa there. Australia's already lost 2 games against the other top 6. So then they need to be basically perfect to maybe make it. and they're playing terribly. So, but I'm totally cool with it. Like I don't even care. Like I'm probably not even going to watch the games if anything. Like so, I'm fine, Avanish. Worry about yourself, man.
I will, honestly. I mean, India 2 for 2, but Sam, just on Australia then. Many people are reckoning that Cummins should get the sack already and put in Smudger. What are your thoughts about that? Because every time you think of Smudger as a captain, he's brilliant, apart from the sandpaper.
I think that if you want to, if you want to, in one fell swoop, identify to everybody else that you don't know about cricket or follow it, say that Smith should be captain. It will have no bearing on the systemic issues driving the performance of the Australian team. I don't understand how there's been this kind of revisionism over what kind of captain he was. Like Smith was pretty good. He was an absolutely outstanding batsman and still remains to some extent. He has never demonstrated any kind of like appealing tactical acumen other than being wildly gesticulating with his hands in the field. And the maturity of Pat Cummins and respect that he garners from the entire team is exactly why he's captain in a post-sandpaper world. Like I think that the issue with captaincy in the Australian team right now is that Pat Cummins should not have accepted the ODI captaincy when Aaron Finch abdicated it. I don't understand why he did that. I was watching him last night going, Cummo, you don't need to be here for this, brother. Like, I suspect he will hand it over after this World Cup. He may be sacked from the captaincy before then, but he didn't need to do it. You know, Australia should have been building a white ball team that was, fit, fresh, and focused for this tournament. It was never going to be possible with the schedule that they've had this year. So it doesn't surprise me. He looks every inch the tired, burnt out, cooked, and like unprepared skipper. And that's on everyone for the appointment, the acceptance of the appointment. But Smith, Smith isn't the answer to that, to me, in any kind of long-term way.
Yeah, I mean, many people reckon that opposite over here, but you're absolutely spot on. Let's just finish up this World Cup chat by asking you guys your predictions. Honestly, don't give me like shitty answers. What is your final four? Who's winning the goddamn tournament? And who's a player to watch out for? Pej first, and then Higgos, if Higgos can hear us or speak.
I can't remember the three that you said. I mean, I think that I think India will win the tournament. I think Devon Conway will score the most runs. I'll try and go I'll try and answer that question of who's the player to watch differently to Star Sports, who listed 6 out of 11 from India. But let me think. I would love to see South Africa in the last serious ODI World Cup right their wrongs. So let me say friend of the show, Quinny de Kock, to just turn it on for one last tournament to get his side over the line before the entire format is blown up.
Okay.
Ian, you echo those thoughts?
India's going to win the World Cup. If they don't, something amazing has happened. New Zealand will be there. South Africa's probably already almost there. And who's the fourth one? England. And I think the fly, the bit SHUBMAN Gill's sort of one to watch for me. If that's sort of going around, what's the potential? What's the ceiling of this fly? You know what I'm saying? How high can this fly go?
I mean, he goes literally insane. Okay, super. Let me just end this particular live stream, which has been a little bit of shambles in terms of the Wi-Fi, but it's all right. Like and subscribe to TGC and cricket.com. Vikram, I'm going to ask, boys, TGC, how much Hindi have you learned by now? Can you guys give us a couple of phrases? Surely you've learned a couple of things in your time in Hyderabad, Bangalore, and elsewhere in India.
Yep.
Sam?
Yeah, everyone kept saying Ben Stokes to us. Yeah.
Yeah. That is the one phrase. That we've learned, but no, I can't. I really can't add to that. You know, like when we did our live shows there earlier this year, all people yelled out to us was sandpaper, which I presumed was a Hindi phrase as well. But no, hey, very open to it. Actually, genuinely open to some Hindi dubbing of our review shows, which would be cool. So maybe we'll learn that way.
Yeah, we'll teach you a few words when we see you guys next in Bangalore, hopefully. Now, Kushal Shah going to say, since this year TGC has been off with its predictions, aka the GTA vs KKR game, what potential promises would you make if the Aussies win the World Cup? Petition to get Higo's face tattooed this time on Pezza's unit. You guys are screaming.
Yeah, you know, I mean, very kind of you, Avanish, to you know, ignore the elephant in the room or the big old slug in the room. But people are people presume that I haven't actually lived up to my promise. I was very clear from the start that if I did do what I said I would do, that I was never going to show my penis online. I'm just never going to do it. I'm never going to show that slug online. Yeah, and also a lot of Indian people are very interested in my penis, which is a sentence I didn't expect to say when I was studying to become a media professional.
Can we see it? Is what I mean. Have you guys got so many DMs? Be like, yeah, prove it to us. Honestly.
Yeah, mate. Every single day.
Every day.
It's every day, dozens.
Oh my god! I thought
tattoo when
past, but obviously. Yeah. It's still, of course, a huge thing. Finally, boys, you guys have been absolute sports. I mean, the internet has let you all down, but don't worry. We will, of course, pardon you all for that. And we'll just ask you one question from the comments. I just don't know where it's gone. Basically, what's giving you guys crow's feet this World Cup? Because there's so much to love. There's so much to loathe. But from a crow's feet perspective, Pezza, anything at all?
Well, one thing that's giving me crow's feet is that, like, on our channel, if you don't criticize the Dharamshala outfield enough, you receive many emails from people saying you're a cuck and you're not calling out the BCCI for their rampant, destruction of the game. And then on the same day, you can talk about some major serious macro issues that may involve the BCCI and its vision for the game as it relates to everybody else, and then have 100,000 people give you death threats. So that gives me crow's feet. It's hard to know what to say sometimes about this World Cup. I mean, it gives me also a line through to federal police, but that's a separate issue.
Okay, and finally one for Ian, just to end up proceedings here, and I'm not really cherry-picked anyone by any stretch of the imagination. OnlyFans coming soon, the TGC version?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's going to be, that's where we get really dark on the OnlyFans TGC. That's when people really get to see what they want to see, and what people really want to see is an opening ceremony for the 12th game of the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect way to end it. And look, thank you so much, guys. Sam and, of course, Ian, you guys have been legends. I know the Firefox has let poor Ian down, but we'll make an exception for him. But it's been fantastic content, nonetheless, from you guys, generally entertaining us every morning. And, of course, we plan to do the same at cricket.com with all the content that we plan for the World Cup. So, of course, subscribe to TGC, help them get to 250K, and subscribe to us, because we, of course, are also trickling on nicely to meeting our goals and targets here in comfortable India. Sam, Ian, thanks so much for your time. We'll leave it there. And boys and girls in the chat, like this video and subscribe, like I said. It's a goodbye from us. And India, Pakistan, boys, surely it is a king who has a say at the end. Cheers.